Church lied. They lied. They lied. The Exodus never happened. Moses never existed. They lied. It's all a made up story. And we're going to talk about it in this episode of The Real God is Not in the Bible. You are on with you Wednesday with Reverend Valerie Love. How you loving? How you loving? Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. If you haven't been here before, we are here every Wednesday night live on the Valerie Love YouTube channel, the Christian Witches YouTube channel, and the Christian Witches Facebook community. Welcome. So, what are we talking about in this episode? We are talking about the Exodus. The Exodus. In the book of Exodus. In the Bible. As we received it. Is it real? Did it happen? What do the archaeologists say? What do the Bible scholars say? What does research yield up? Did it happen? And I can tell you uncategorically, the answer to that question is no, never happened. Never happened. Never happened. And I want to give a big shout out and a big virtual hug to Dr. Ray Hagins. I don't know if anyone knows Dr. Ray Hagins here. I have loved Dr. Ray Hagins for years. And Dr. Ray Hagins used to be, he was right in the DC area where I lived. That's how I found out about him. I found out about him from someone else who was in our community, and I was leading retreats and doing a morning prayer call. And that's how I found out about Dr. Ray Hagins. And when I went over and peeked at what Dr. Ray Hagins was talking about, blew my mind many years ago, right? And what I discovered is much the same that Dr. Ray Hagins has discovered, and we discovered this independently. So I have to give a big shout out to Dr. Ray Hagins because Dr. Ray Hagins has been freeing people's minds. He was a pastor in a Christian church, a large Christian church. And he had his come to Jesus moment. He had his moment where he came to understand that these stories in the Bible, they never happened. They're stories. They never happened. And when he came to understand that, he shared it with his audience. He did not keep it to himself. He shared it with the church, even though there was a very real possibility that we love Dr. Ray Hagins. It was a very real possibility that the whole church would have denounced him, walked out, and that would have been the end of that. But it wasn't. It wasn't. People leaned in. When Dr. Ray Hagins started talking about all these mythological people in the Bible that never existed and going absolutely against the things that we have been taught in the church and breaking down how the church lied and how they perpetuate the lie and how they absolutely psychologically terrorize people with thoughts of hell and eternal damnation and torment and how they keep people in bondage. Free our minds. We're here to free our minds. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Don't be so blind. Don't be so shallow. That is the truth. This is interesting. I'm learning and growing. Not saying I believe this totally, but I am not in opposition to what you were saying. I love that. I love that. We're just going to be very open. We always examine the evidence. I never tell people what to think. Here's the ground rules. I never tell people what to think. I think too much of you to tell you what to think. Church does that. I teach on truth and then leave it there on the table. Do with it what you will. Some people will say, wow, I need to go deeper down the rabbit hole myself. Some people will say, this makes sense to me. I'm going to read the books that are recommended. Some people will say, you know what? I'm in church and it's okay to me that these things never happen because I take it more metaphysically anyway. All good. You are the one who is walking out your spiritual path. You are the one that must come to terms with what these things mean, what the Bible is, what does it mean, what influence, if any, is it going to have on your life. And some of the things that I'm going to show you tonight will be utterly shocking as they were to me when I first discovered them. Screen share, you know how we do. Let's go in. Okay, so Here we are. We're on Witchy Wednesday. And yes, I am a practicing Christian witch, a professional Christian witch. I lead rituals, retreats, all of that. And we have a mystery school. Feel free to join it if you desire. It is linked below in the description where we teach magic. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this series? Because some Christians come into the chat and they think the purpose of this series is for me to tear down Christianity, tear down the Bible. No, I don't have to tear down Christianity because it's fallen by itself. I don't have to tear down the Bible because I love the Bible. I'm here to share evidence that the Bible is not from God. People think the Bible is from God, and that creates a horrendous situation for us because we believe that those entities, rather than being Anunnaki or Elohim characters, some call them the Anunnaki, some call them the Elohim. The Bible calls them the Elohim. These Elohim characters, the Elohim and the Beni Elohim, were all conglomerated, congealed into one God, Yahweh. I'm the God of everyone and everything. And we don't do research. People don't do research as to how did that occur? How did Yahweh evolve from being an ancient Canaanite deity, a storm god, minor storm god, to being the God of the whole universe? How did that happen? Yahweh is the God of nothing. Definitely not for me at all. And I come from the Jehovah's Witnesses cult, and their whole thing was Yahweh and Jehovah is the same. But they feel like they have a better pronunciation of it, of the Holy Tetragrammaton YHWH. There were no vowels. So we don't know what it is. We don't know if it's Yahweh, Jehovah. We don't know what it is. There were no vowels. It was written YHWH. What is that? We don't know. So everything from that is a guess because they did not continue to speak the name because the name was considered too holy to be uttered. So they lost the pronunciation of it. So no one knows if it's Yahweh or Jehovah. And I think that's very strange that God wouldn't even let you know his name if we're to believe what the Bible says. Ultimately, let us end all war and let us come into oneness and peace. We don't have to agree to be in oneness and peace. We can disagree agreeably. That's why people who come on the channel and they come in not being respectful of all people here, they're booted out. Our block game is strong. It's a strong block ministry around here. We have great boundaries. You'll be escorted out. People that are not coming in peace and oneness are just escorted out the door. Because we don't have to agree on everything, yet we can do it respectfully. We can still have a respectful adult conversation about it. Moses. I'm going to read you some quotes from several Bible scholars and from archaeologists. From archaeologists is in this batch too. Let's go to one of my favorite Bible scholars, Dr. Joel Baden, one of my favorite Bible scholars. Now, he's professor of Hebrew Bible at Yale Divinity School. Yes, I did say Yale. And yes, Yale don't have no chumps, right? As we would know, Yale does not have chumps. Dr. Joel Baden, I've got to tell you something very amazing about Dr. Joel Baden. I went to an event here in Miami. I was invited to this summer solstice event. It was amazing. You'll probably remember that night when I was at the summer solstice event. Well, at the summer solstice event was this couple that were visiting from the north. Sure enough, I asked, we were talking about what we do and who we are. She is the dean of Yale Divinity School. And I thought, what? You've got to be kidding me. I love Dr. Joel Baden. She says, yes, Dr. Joel. Yes, Dr. Joel Baden. He's one of course, he's one of the professors at Yale Divinity School. So if you want to become a pastor and you go to Yale Divinity School, Joel Baden, also Jewish by heritage, will teach you about the Hebrew Bible. And I would say that Joel Baden knows a lot more about the Hebrew Bible than I do, him speaking Hebrew, studying Hebrew, PhD, a scholar of Hebrew, a professor. He teaches it. He teaches at Yale Divinity School. Listen to what Dr. Joel Baden, I've quoted him a couple of times in my book. Listen to what Dr. Joel Baden, PhD, look him up, You would probably love listening to Dr. Joel Baden. I love listening to him because he's witty, he's sharp witted, his mind is sharp as a tack, and he knows his stuff. Hebrew Bible, he knows his stuff because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about Hebrew Bible in Exodus. I want to read to you his exact verbatim, word for word quotes about Moses. You would think he would know, right? You would think he would know. I want to read to you his exact verbatim. You can't be a slouch and you can't be a crazy person or don't know your stuff and be at Yale Divinity School. Look what Dr. Joel Baden said. I'm going to give you a couple of his quotes because they just slap me in the face when Dr. Joel Baden is talking and then he said something. His quotes just slap me in the face. This is one of the things he said. He said nothing in the Bible about Moses is historically verifiable or even remotely plausible or true. Three things. He said nothing. Nothing in the Bible about Moses. Nothing. He wasn't real. He didn't exist. Nothing in the Bible about Moses is historically verifiable, cannot be verified historically. He said, or even remotely plausible, like it's not even plausible or true. This comes from one who is Jewish by background and culture. I want to give you another quote that Dr. Joel Baden stated. I have him quoted a couple of times in the book. Here's another quote. I'm showing you the manuscript of the book. If you do not have the book, I'll drop the link for the book shortly. Even though the Hebrew Bible is old, because we're talking about the Hebrew Bible, where the Exodus is. This is the Hebrew Bible. And when they began to formulate Christianity, they went and grabbed the Hebrew people's Bible, the Jewish people's Bible, and appended it to the New Testament. Now, why they did that, I don't know, because this book doesn't even belong to us. It belongs to the Jewish people. How do you go around just stealing people's holy books and using it for your own? It's not even our book. Okay. Here's the quote. Even though the Hebrew Bible is old, it is not particularly the oldest. People think that the Hebrew Bible goes all the way back to the beginning of humankind to Adam and Eve. No. He said, nor is it particularly unique. It's not unique. What? Wait a minute. It's not old and it's not unique. When we say it's not old, yeah, it could be 2000 and change old. That's not old. When you consider that humans have been on the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, not 6,000 years, but that's what they told us in church. But I'm telling you, church lied. Nor is it particularly unique. So it's not old. It's not the oldest. And it's not unique. What? What do you mean? Say more, Dr. Joel Baden. It draws on, imitates, somewhat, or almost plagiarizes ancient Near Eastern literature that predates it, sometimes by more than a millennium. You mean some of these stories from the Bible are stories that have come to us from ancient Near Eastern literature that predates the Bible, sometimes by more than 1,000 years? Well, slap me in the face. Think about that. It's not the oldest and it's not original. It's plagiarism. It's imitates. It draws on. It's fiction. It's conjured. It's invented. And let me come off screen share for a minute. It's invented. It's invented, and I've got plenty more to show you about it. And you get to make up your own mind because I highly respect you and love you. When you consider that a professor of Hebrew Bible is telling you that it is not original and that it's not even that old. Think about what the church told you, told me, told all of us about the Bible. Didn't they tell us it was the oldest? This is the original story. Didn't they tell us that Moses stood on a mountaintop and received the 10 Commandments straight from the hand of God? All made up, because there was no Moses. It's an invented story. We'll show you why in a moment. I'll show you why in a moment. This is very difficult for Christian people to even fathom the depths of lies that we have been told. It is very difficult for them to fathom. I wonder why most people continue to believe the Bible is factual. This is such a good question, Anthony. This is such a good question. And I will show you what I write in the book about that. Let's go up here to cognitive dissonance. Here is what it says. The Bible, okay, here's cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological theory proposed by Leon Festinger in 1957. It refers to the mental discomfort or stress that a person experiences when they hold two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes simultaneously, or when their behavior conflicts with their beliefs or values. This discomfort can lead to changing their beliefs or behaviors, or to reduce the dissonance and restore internal consistency. So, in other words, what are we talking about here? Oh, I wasn't there on screen share. I want to show you this quote in the book on screen share. Hold on. This is the quote. You can take a screenshot of this. This is cognitive dissonance. I have a chapter in the book on cognitive dissonance. So here we have it. This is cognitive dissonance. And this is exactly why people who are Christians, like myself, I grew up as a Christian. I grew up in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses, was baptized as a Christian. I don't regret any of it. It was great. It led me to truth. It wasn't truth. It led me to truth because it was so horrific and so no in my spirit that I had to leave and go search for the truth. So it was the catalyst for my evolution. For that, I am eternally grateful. If I liked it, I would have probably still be there. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological theory proposed by Leon Festinger in 1957. It refers to the mental discomfort or stress that a person experiences when they hold two or more contradictory beliefs or values or attitudes simultaneously, or when their behavior conflicts with their beliefs or values. So what it's saying is that they have got to, if when you believe something, right? Hold on, I'm going to come off screen share for a second. So let's say you believe with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength that Moses was a real person. He stood on Mount Sinai and received the 10 Commandments from Yahweh, Jehovah, God, written with his own finger, Charlton Heston. Like that was a fucking movie. That was a movie. Charlton Heston, wind blowing, fire, God. 1, thou shalt not lie. 2, thou shalt not. Like that's creativity. Never happened. Never happened. Okay. So when people have in their mind the idea, and it's deeply ingrained belief, that Moses existed, he was an absolute historical person. This is what they believe. He stood on Mount Sinai. He was there with the burning bush. Then he went and met God. God gave him the 10 Commandments. He came down from the mountain, and the people were worshiping a calf bull that they had made when they got all their jewelry and their gold that they had stole when they were out of Egypt. I mean, what an incoherent story. But anyway, supposedly, if you believe that, right? If a person has that belief, wasn't it a good movie, Lana? It was a movie. People don't seem to realize this is a movie. This is a fabrication. It's no different from Harry Potter. And I actually have a chapter in my book that I'm going to show you about Harry Potter, Sargon of Akkad, and Moses, all the same. Sargon was an actual real historical figure. Yet I'm going to show you some of the things that are similar between Harry Potter and Moses. They're both literary fictions. Harry Potter and Moses, both literary fictions. Neither one any better than the other. They're both made up. So you believe that. This is cognitive dissonance. You believe that. And then here comes scholarship, archaeology. Not people who are bashing the Bible, not necessarily even atheists. I'm not an atheist. Not people who hate Christianity, just people who have looked at the evidence and say, well, Moses never exists. This is not a historical figure. The Exodus never happened. This is not. And then it meets with an already entrenched belief, right? cognitive dissonance. And what do? We have to resolve the cognitive dissonance. Otherwise, we stay in a state of internal stress and we want to come back to internal harmony. So, our beliefs will force us to do one of two things: drop the belief for the truth that's being presented to us right now, which few people do because it takes a tremendous amount of courage, or keep the belief and call all of them heretics, blasphemers, and liars, and feel good about yourself and go back to church and sit in church and just relax. You don't have to think about any of these hard things to think about. You don't have to do any critical thinking. You don't have to dig deep into your own belief system and take apart your own belief structures brick by brick. You don't have to do any of that. You could just sit in church, be a nice little church person. Just pray, keep praying, obeying, and paying, and you'll be fine. Except in here, it didn't work for me. In here, I couldn't. I was still. Let's continue. So it's an excellent question, Anthony, about why do they still believe the Bible? They want to. They need to. They need for the Bible to be historically true. They need it to be true for their belief system, for them to even be able to sleep at night. Okay, let's continue. And we're going to continue to examine the evidence. So we've heard from Dr. Joel Baden. What about William Dever, archaeologist? There is no archaeological evidence to support the notion of a mass exodus of people from Egypt, much less their prolonged wanderings in the wilderness. These people supposedly were wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. 2 million people. How do we get to the number 2 million, even though the Bible says 600,000 able-bodied men? We'll show you in a moment because it's women and children. So that would equal probably about 2 million people wandering around in the desert for 40 years. Never happened. Thomas L. Thompson, author of The Mythic Past, Biblical Archaeology and the Myth of Israel. The Exodus is a theological narrative, not a historical record. It's a theological narrative. What is a theological narrative? It is made up to support a theology that people want you to believe. It's not historical. All right, let's talk about this. First, we've got to remember a few important salient details about the Bible. We don't have the original manuscripts of the Bible, so we don't even know what it originally said. We don't have copies of the original manuscripts of the Bible. We don't have copies of the original manuscripts of the Bible. It would be very important for us to remember that. So therefore, no one really knows what the original Bible says. And no, the Ethiopian Bible is not the original Bible, contrary to what many people think. We do not know who wrote the books of the Bible. Later on, the names were attributed. So we don't have the originals. We don't know who wrote it. We just don't. No one does. Now in church, they'll try to convince you that they know who wrote Malachi. There is absolutely no evidence that the book of Malachi was written by a person named Malachi. Absolutely no evidence. Now here's more considerations about the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew language only had vowels. It only had vowels. So the manuscripts that we have, the old manuscripts that are copies of the copies of the copies of the copies of the copies, they're not written with vowels. The vowels weren't added until the Masoretic text was put together by Jewish scribes somewhere between the 7th and 10th centuries CE, 700 to 1000 CE, not BCE, CE. Up until then, up until they took on that massive task of putting vowels in, it was all consonants. The original Hebrew language has no metaphysical concepts. It doesn't talk about, like when we talk about the very old original Hebrew and the ideas of the original people that were quote unquote the Hebrew people, there were no ideas of like eternity, life after death, heaven and hell. All these things came later. The original Hebrew Bible was heavily redacted during the exilic period, 6th century BCE, and the post-exilic period, 4th to 5th centuries BCE, where you hear about the reforms of Josiah and Hezekiah and all of that. That It was a big redaction. And if you want to really get into the weeds about the redaction, I've got an excellent book for you to read in addition to the books that I'm referencing for these scholars. And I'm going to give you a link to it right now. And you may have heard me talk about it over and over and over again. I absolutely love this particular book. Hold on, let me get you the link to the, this is it, resources for the book. Let me get you the link to this. Let me copy this link. And as an Amazon influencer, I am compensated when you purchase books from Amazon using my link. That is a hashtag paid, hashtag paid link. Let me be right with the FTC, hashtag ad. Okay, so that is the link. And when you go there, I want you to look at this book right here. I've told you about it so many times because I so love this book. This book is one of the foundational books you would have to read to understand this. When God Had a Wife. When God Had a Wife. The Fall and Rise of the Sacred Feminine in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Okay, let's go back. So, being that we remember those things about the Bible, we are now starting to look at the Bible through a different lens. We cannot look through the Bible at the Bible as if it is this super accurate, pristine, written by the hand of God, tell you every single thing that happened, absolute, accurate, detailed history. We cannot look at the Bible that way if we are to be true, if we are to be in truth. We simply cannot. Now, let's talk about all the reasons why the Exodus could have never happened. This is from scholars. I'll tell you what scholars are really helpful with understanding this. I'll give you a list of the scholars in a moment. Lack of archaeological evidence is no trace. Do you see what it says? No trace of a mass migration in the Sinai Peninsula. Now, despite all these archaeological exploration, they have been looking and looking and looking for these people. There is no evidence that people, hundreds of thousands of people, because the Bible says 600,000 able bodied men, which would have been another, maybe if they had families, if they had mothers, fathers, if they had wives, partners, children, if they had, all the people that were not the able bodied men. The able bodied men were 600,000. That's what the Bible says, which would put it at about 1 million to 2 million people wandering the desert for 40 years, and you can't find a campsite, you can't find a grave, you can't find an artifact, you can't find trash, you can't find a pottery bowl, not so much as a pottery bowl. Can't find it. Why? Because it never happened. 2 million people never walked in the desert for 40 years. It never happened. Okay, there's no collapse of Egypt due to the plagues. The dramatic events described, right? The plagues, the devastating death of the firstborn, splatter the blood over your door so the angel of death can cross over your door, pass over your door, from which there is the Passover. The frogs coming out, the blood, Nile River turning to blood. Never happened. Yet, Egyptians wrote everything down. Their scribes were superb. The Egyptians kept record of everything. We can still find shopping lists from Egypt and not one mention of all these 10 devastating plagues. And you might say, because they were too embarrassed to write it down, they got beat. Well, no one in Egypt wrote any retort to it because this would have been a regional devastating event. Other surrounding nations would have known about this. So even if the Egyptians didn't want to write anything down about it, which they never did that, even in cases where they were not the absolute winner, they still wrote their version of the story. We don't even have that. Nothing from the Egyptians. Nothing from the Egyptians. Only a little bit about the Hyksos. That wasn't this. Okay, Jericho and Canaanite cities. Some of the cities reportedly conquered by the Israelites, like Jericho, Ai, which is in the Bible, Hazor, show either no evidence of destruction at the time or were uninhabited during the supposed period of the conquest. You know how Joshua, they were going into all these cities and we blew the trumpet, we marched around Jericho 7 times and blew the trumpet and beat the things and the walls fell. Never happened. Never happened. Shocking, right? I said I was going to tell you some shocking things tonight. Okay, let's keep going. No Egyptian records of the Exodus. Ancient Egyptians recorded events in detail, even their defeats. Well, of course, they're going to give a spin to it, right? But there is no mention of a mass Hebrew escape, no mention of plagues, no mention of their army being drowned, no mention of the Pharaoh himself being drowned. It's very telling. Now, that by itself would not be the nail in the coffin. We're looking at this because we're looking at many aspects of the story. Well, let's look at archaeology. Let's dig up the ground where the Bible says there were. Nothing. Donut. You got nothing. 40 years, these people, 2 million people were walking in the wilderness for 40 years, and you don't even have so much as a burial site. Well, I guess none of the people died, even though the Bible says that they all had to die before they could go to this, that the people that could only cross over to the promised land were the people that were young, because the old ones were too set in their ways. So where did they put all those dead people? Where are the bones? Where is the evidence? Zero. Okay, the Egyptians did document the presence of Semitic peoples in Egypt, like the Hyksos, but these do not match the Exodus narrative. Okay, let's keep going. Literary elements. Remember, Dr. Joel Baden spoke of that some of these stories are retelling of other stories. A lot of them are retelling of Anunnaki stories, especially about the Elohim and Moses talking to. He wasn't talking to Yahweh, he was talking to an Anunnaki. That got changed later. A lot of these stories are Anunnaki stories. Places in Exodus may reflect later periods because some of these towns that are mentioned didn't even exist at the time that the story was written. The story is telling us about. I'll give you an example. If you said the United States of America and you're writing a story that was that took place in the 1500s, well, all of us would say, well, the United States of America wasn't established in the 1500s. We would be able to put the pieces together because we know the history of the United States of America. We don't know the history. That's why church can lie to you, because you don't know what kingdom rose when. And most Christians are not even trying to go and find out what was that even a kingdom at the time that they were trying to tell us that it was a kingdom, or was it not? The story has strong parallels with ancient mythological motifs. Here it goes again, where Joel Baden is saying that the Bible sometimes plagiarizes, the Bible sometimes borrows, the Bible sometimes imitates the literary norms of the Near Eastern world. And it draws its inspiration from works that are predated by almost a millennium. This is what we know. Well, mythological motifs include a miraculous birth. I'm going to show you how Moses is really just reimagined Sargon of Akkad. Plagues, parting of waters, divine laws from a big mountain, right? So all of these motifs and these literary elements that are very common in the Near Eastern world, this would more support the idea that this is literature being written. This is not a history being written. And that it was a theological construction. They wanted something out of it. They absolutely wanted, you might say, well, what was the motive to make this up? Oh, there was a big motive. I'll show you in a moment. Population size issues. The Bible claims 600,000 men left Egypt, not counting women and children, which implies over 2 million people. Scholars widely agree this number is logistically implausible for ancient Egypt in the Sinai environment. Logistically impossible. Where'd they get water? 2 million people wandering in the Sinai desert. Where'd they get water? I know what you're going to say. Moses struck a rock and water came out. alternative origins of Israel. Now, what a lot of scholars are bringing to light now and helping us understand is that Israel emerged out of Canaan. They're indigenous to Canaan. So all this conversation that you hear about the Israelites and the Canaanites going back and forth, and the Israelites this and the Canaanites that, and get the Canaanites out, and the Canaanites and the Canaanites and the Canaanites. This is their origin story when they start talking about Abraham and Sarah and all of this. They had to make up an origin story because they want to distance themselves from being Canaanites. They're actually Canaanites. Let's talk scholars. Let's talk scholars. Let's talk books that you can read. Let's talk research. Let's talk facts, figures, not conjecture. Israel Finkelstein, and Neil Asher Silverman, authors of The Bible Unearthed. What are they saying? They're saying that the biblical history, I put it in like a air quote, history. It's not history. Including the Exodus, was written during the reign of King Josiah for political and religious reform. What was their motive? Let's come off screen share. What was the motive for making this up? Buddy in the vortex, buddy in the vortex, buddy in the vortex, baby. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Where's my bell? I need to get my bell. Yes, buddy in the vortex. Oh, welcome all my new members. Welcome my new members. And thank you so much for gifting memberships to these amazing people. Y'all are so freaking amazing gifting memberships around here. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. You are so freaking awesome, Tasha. Love it. Mwah. Love you. Billionfold return to you. Love it. Love it. Love it. The Exodus never happens. That's right. The Exodus never happened. It never happened. Lana, I love this. We need to visit museums, ask questions for our own good. Absolutely. So while I was at the museum in London, the British Museum, every Christian ought to do certain trips. You know how they make you do, well, they don't make you. You know how you get to do pilgrimages? Like, let's say you're a person who is Islamic. You're going to do a pilgrimage to Mecca. And some people who are in Europe, they do pilgrimages and things like that. So they have a lot of pilgrimage sites over there in Europe. In America, it would be very good for us to do some pilgrimages. And you know what? Instead of trying to go and do a pilgrimage and find the bones, a shroud of Turin, or the bones of John the Baptist, instead of that, how about you go on a pilgrimage to find truth? How about we go to museums, as Lana is speaking of, and read books? Look at what they pulled out of the ground. Look at when they pulled it out. Look at the cities that the Bible is talking about. Did these cities even exist at the time that they said they did, that this thing took place? This is a made up story. And I love that. I love that. It's a made up story. Okay. Look at that. Be Eve is the trip. I love that. I did my money spelled out and my tax debt was canceled. Boom, 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 boom. What are we talking about here? It works if you're working. That's what we're talking about here. This channel all about spirituality. These channels, these platforms that we are talking about here is all about the spirituality, working your magic, coming to your own sovereignty, freeing your mind and working your magic. Free your mind. Family. I got to tell you, family, I am so happy to hear that. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Badass Sanctum. That means a lot coming from you because you are a makeup artist, the incredible founder of the Badass Sanctum. I love that. Let me see what Discerning Spirituality asks. Can you do a series of where the ideas of Jesus' blood being an atonement for sins comes from? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, we can certainly talk about that because people, once again, are trapped in that. Let's continue with our scholars. And the Exodus never happened. Books, research, archaeology. Like, I don't think we should just believe things because people say them, right? I think we should look at evidence. Let's continue. Okay, the scholars. So we talked about King Josiah, and let me tell you what their motive was. That's what I came off screen share to share with you. I came off screen share to share with you the motive. What was the motive? I'll tell you the motive. The motive was control and money. It's the same motive every time, family. The script never changes. These sociopaths that want to take control of every man, woman, and child on this planet and milk you for everything you've got, vampire humanity, it's always the same motive: control and money, power. The motive has never changed, same motive. And why do I say that, Reverend Valerie Love? Why do you say that? Look what they wanted. Look what they said to do. They told you what their motive was in what they said to do. They said, tear down all your temples, tear down all your Asherah poles, all of your poles to the goddess, because Yahweh had a wife. Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh. You didn't see it, Yahweh without his Asherah, or Asherah, however you'd like to say it. Asherah was everywhere. They found a lot of Asherah everywhere. They found that, but still have found no evidence of the Exodus. So everywhere you look, you saw Yahweh and his wife. They were a couple, they were together. And so, what were Jeremiah and the Yahwists wanting to do? The Yahwists wanted the people, Israel, to stop worshiping anything other than Yahweh and to have a one central location for the temple. We don't need y'all to be putting up these worship places high on the hills and in your houses. Y'all got shrines everywhere. No, no, no. You need to come to Jerusalem. Bring all your money to Jerusalem. We need to centralize this under one high priest and one king so we can control all of y'all. We can't control y'all when y'all are decentralized, worshiping how you want in your own shrine, in your own home, and on the mountains and in the wilderness, and putting up altars there and altars there. We're going to tear down all the high places. It said it in the Bible. Well, the church lied. How did the church lie? Because they told you what to think of these statements the Bible was making. They told you who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. Well, the Bible never told you who the good guy was or the bad guy, or the good gals and the bad gals. Why? The Bible is only telling you stories. King Rehoboam did this, and then King Josiah did this, and then Hezekiah did this, and then Rahab said this, and then this one said this. The Bible doesn't tell you what to think about what it's giving you. Church did that. If you just read the Bible, you'd just be reading a bunch of adventures, quite fascinating adventures. You wouldn't know who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. You would have to come to your own conclusions. You'd have to say, do I like Hezekiah or do I like Josiah? Nebuchadnezzar, what was going on with him? The church told you Jezebel was nothing but Jeremiah. Oh, he's wonderful. We love Jeremiah. David, if you just read the stories of David in the Bible, you would think this man is a hellion. This man is a murderer, an adulterer, a schemer. This dead man is up there with some of the antics of Diddy. You wouldn't think David was wonderful? Church told you that. Church told you what to think of David, whereas the Bible just told you the story of David. Am I lying? Am I lying? Let's continue. So, yes, there was a motive. The motive was control, power, siphon the energy from the people, make the people come to high priest, bring them here to Jerusalem. We're your king now. We're your high priest now. And you got to bring all your tithes and offerings. Oh, here comes the money part. It's always the same thing. The original, David was the original Diddy. Diddy ain't got nothing on David because David took somebody else's wife and then killed the man. At least Diddy didn't kill anybody, I don't think. I wouldn't say that about Diddy. I don't want to ruin his name even more than he has ruined his own reputation. I don't think he's involved in murder, but I don't know. People say different things, but I don't know. That hasn't been proven in a court of law. And people are innocent, presumed innocent until proven guilty. That is the law, right? David was an absolute horrific person. But in church, they tell you, oh, a man after God's own heart. God loved it. Be like David, a murderer and an adulterer and a schemer. Be like that, but he killed Goliath with a stone. Well, that's murder too. I'm over it. Let's go. So yeah, the motive has always been the same. Of all these lies they make up, it's always been the same. Hasn't changed. They haven't changed the script in 5,000 years. Let's continue. All right. So we have here the whole idea of William Deaver. I told you already that he says absolutely no large-scale historical event. Let's look at Thomas Romer. He offers a critical view of the Exodus tradition and biblical redaction. Zev Herzog. Now, he's an archaeologist at the Tel Aviv University. I'm just giving you a list of scholars that you yourself can go look, read their works, read what they're talking about, research them. Many of them have interviews. Some of them, Dr. Joel Baden has quite a few interviews on YouTube. If you don't want to read, I don't know if Dr. Joel Baden has written books. He has quite a few interviews. If you want to just get an earful of Dr. Joel Baden, YouTube him, YouTube search him. You will listen to his interviews and your mouth will be hanging open. Okay, let's look at the archaeologist from Tel Aviv University. Do you notice that a lot of these people are Jewish by culture, by background? He is famous for his book, Deconstructing the Walls of Jericho, written in actually not a book, an article written in 1999. He boldly states that there is no evidence for the Exodus, the wilderness wandering, or the conquest. These are literary inventions. They're literary inventions. They are literary inventions. Here is his quote, verbatim quote: "The Israelites were never in Egypt, did not wander in the desert, did not conquer the land in a military campaign, and did not pass it on to the 12 tribes of Israel." Do you understand the 12 tribes of Israel is absolutely astrology? Do we understand that? The 12 tribes of Israel is astrology. Oh my goodness, super chat from David. David said, hello from David. Hey, David, we got a David in the house, but we know that you are not the scheming, murderous, adultering David of the Bible. Wow. So that's what we have. That's what we have. Okay, so now let's go back on screen share and let's continue with our scholars, our Bible scholars. We're not just making up things, and we're not just drawing things out of the clear blue sky. No 12 tribes of Israel. That's astrology. Straight up got that from astrology, as well as the 12 apostles. Straight up from astrology. Ain't no 12 tribes of Israel. I know that the Hebrew Israelites don't like me saying things like that, but I've got to tell the truth. It's no 12 tribes of Israel. It never happened. There was no Abraham, that if he did exist, and not in the way that he's depicted in the Bible, and then later on, these 12 tribes arise from Jacob and whatnot. No. The 12 tribes are the 12 constellations in 12 months. That's all astrology in the Bible. Okay, let's talk about Moses and Sargon before we close. Let's talk about Moses and Sargon. First, I saw a question in the chat earlier about the book. Is the book in hardcover yet? The book is not in hardcover yet. The hardcover is going to come out on 11/11 on my Kickstarter. And so I will give you the info when we get closer to the Kickstarter about how you can get the special edition hardcovers signed. The hardcovers, you would not be able to buy the hardcovers before the Kickstarter on any platform. On Amazon, all those, they'll get it later. They will not get it first before you. So we will have the paperback, and we have the hardcover and special edition hardcovers and signed copies. We're doing all of that for the real God is not in the Bible, how religion and superstition blinded humanity to the truth for thousands of years. And if you're a member, you already have a copy, and it is available right now in ebook format. And why is it in ebook format? Why do we have it in ebook format now? Because I'm still working on it. So if you buy the ebook right now, has great reviews. If you buy the ebook right now, I'm still updating the ebook. That's why you can get it in ebook fashion. Please, please, please leave reviews. Please read reviews. One person got mad because I said there are no angels in the Bible. They got super mad about that. Everyone else that she never read the book. Everyone else that actually read the book enjoyed the book and has 5-star reviews of the book. That actually bought the book and actually read the book. Okay, she never read the book. She saw there are no angels in the Bible right here. She saw that in the description. She left a 1-star review. How you gonna review the book and you didn't even read the book? Okay, I don't know. And you know what? Amazon loves all reviews. They don't care if it's 1 star or what it is. Anyway, let's conclude with this. So pick up the book, and if you are a member here on the YouTube channel, you have a copy of the book. If you are a member on the Christian Witches YouTube channel, if you are a member on the Valerie Love YouTube channel, go into your membership portal and you will see there the ebook version of the book. And I update it every so often because I'm still writing the book. It's like y'all are writing it with me. Yay! Okay. Let's talk about this. Take a screenshot of this, family. Take a screenshot of this because this is really important. We must remember Dr. Joel Baden spoke of Near Eastern literature. We must study the literature. What was it talking about? Like some people know rap music better than they know literature. And that's okay if rap music is your thing. My thing is understanding literature and understanding what really happened. And so I've got to understand Near Eastern literature from which the Hebrew Bible emerged. Well, in Near Eastern literature, there are 3, I guess you could call them motifs, themes, right? What you would put in a book today that people would expect to see in a fantasy book. Well, that took place in Near Eastern literature as well. So 3 of these motifs are called the exposed infant motif, also known as the exposed hero motif, the divine child motif, and the foundling motif. Now, I want to tell you something. All 3, Moses, Sargon of Akkad, who is actually a real historical figure, and Harry Potter, all have all 3 of these motifs. And I know that might sound strange, so let's go over to the book, and everyone who has the book, flip open the book, and I want you to go to this chapter right here. Let's get to chapter with Moses, Sargon, and it may look a little different from the version you have because I'm still writing in it. I'm still writing the book. Yes. Okay. Moses, Sargon, and Harry Potter. It would be good if I put it in the search. Wouldn't that be good? That would be good. Hey, here we go. Boom. Let's go there. There we go. Chapter 12. Thank you. All right. So here we have Sargon, who is a historical figure, Sargon of Akkad, Jesus, Moses, and Harry Potter. What do they all have in common? They all have in common these 3 motifs. And here are a list of others that have these motifs: Horus, Moses, Krishna, Romulus and Remus, Jesus, Buddha, Augustus, Mithras, Dionysus, Apollo. What is the exposed infant motif? A baby whose life is in peril. Does that sound like Moses? Now, Sargon of Akkad, his mother was a priestess. And his mother got pregnant with him while she was in the temple, which was a no-no because supposedly she was celibate, but somebody was having a good time. Anywho, she got pregnant. So, of course, she couldn't tell the people that she was pregnant, so she hid the pregnancy, and when she gave birth to him, she had to put him in a basket among the reeds in the Euphrates River. Let me see, where have I heard that story before? The baby is always in peril. Jesus, Harry Potter. The baby is always in peril. This is a motif. It's a trope. But somehow the baby is going to be rescued for danger. Sargon, Moses, Jesus, Harry Potter. Jesus, in a dream, Joseph told him, they're coming for the baby. Hide. Go to Egypt. The baby is the chosen one, but no one knows it yet. The baby grows up to be a powerful leader. This is a repeating motif. And people who, you know how we read Shakespeare and we understand what Shakespeare is talking about? Well, people in the Near Eastern world, ancient, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, they would have known what this meant. They would have understood the tropes, just like we understand the Harry Potter tropes. We understand the fantasy tropes. We understand that we're reading a romance. This is a romance trope. We understand tropes. We understand literature. And if we take the Bible as literature, then we would expect to see tropes, motifs. The divine child motif. This is all about a supernatural or miraculous birth, usually involving a virgin or maybe a woman who's past childbearing age. I cannot go into now all the people in the Bible that were born from some woman that couldn't have children, or she was barren, or she was past childbearing age, or it's just repeating. Have you ever wondered why that just keeps repeating? It's a motif. There's always portents like signs in heaven about the birth, the child. We followed his star here. Child's life is in danger, of course, so they have to hide them. The child usually has some kind of modest upbringing where they're brought up with people that are not their parents, like Harry. Very modest upbringing. He's raised by muggles. The child's hero nature continues to emerge, however, and he's going to galvanize forces, he or she. This is the hero unfolded. This is a story. It's a beautiful story. Divine child motif, foundling motif. The baby has to be hidden somewhere in nature, and people have to find him. So Moses in a basket. Horus was in a basket on the Nile River, hidden by Isis, hiding him among the reeds from Set, his quote unquote uncle, who people like to paint him as evil. Set is not evil, Set is chaos. There's a big difference between evil and chaos. Chaos and order. Ma'at is order, divine order, and Set is chaos. Don't you have to have chaos and order? He's not evil. Set killed Osiris, which was Horus, or Set, who is Isis, and her husband, Osur, who was quote unquote named Osiris by the Greeks, and then their child, Heru, who was named Horus by the Greeks, Heru. They, obviously, the baby was in danger, and so she hid him among the reeds from his uncle, Set, to not kill him in the Nile River in a basket. It's a theme, it's a trope. It recurs. No one knows. Someone finds the baby. Someone always finds the baby. Someone found Remus and Romulus. They were raised by wolves, I believe, she wolves, the founders of Rome. Someone found Moses, right, the Pharaoh's daughter. Someone found Sargon of Akkad. It was like a farmer, raised him very, very modestly. And Harry Potter, we know that story. Hagrid took Harry Potter and put him on the doorstep of his muggle aunt and uncle, and they raised him. These are tropes. These are not to be believed as historical facts. They're stories. And we can appreciate the Bible and we can love the Bible without having to think that it's real or that it's from God. I love the Bible. It is a collection of literature, a collection of stories with metaphor, allegory, symbolism, astrology, all of that. Kingdoms rising and falling, talking animals, demons, angels, dragons, all of that. Like, how could you not love all of that? It's one of the greatest adventure books ever. Assembled. It is an assembly. It's a collection of many books written over thousands of years by many different people of whom we don't know who they are. We don't even know who wrote the Bible. Isn't that shocking? We want to pretend like we know, so that we can feel comfy. And anyone who's telling you the truth will tell you we don't know who wrote the Bible. That's the truth. It's unsettling and it makes us uncomfortable. Ooh, how could you say that? We don't even know who wrote this book. We don't know not one word of it. We don't know who wrote it. They can guess, and scholars are continually to debate back and forth who wrote this book, who wrote that, who wrote the Gospels, who wrote Luke Acts, who wrote. No definitive answer. We don't know. And I find that to be a great mystery that is yet to be solved. I love you. Buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. Share this vid, subscribe, and absolutely join us in our private community, Money Magic, where we work with all of these incredible, incredible spiritual and holistic healers and practitioners for them to create the life and business they love living on purpose. The spiritual community. Join us in spiritual community. It's below this vid in the description. I love you, and I'll see you next week, Wednesday. Peace. Crazy out.